Today you'll probably eat 3 times. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, same as always. But for almost all of human history, nobody ate like that. The ancient Romans thought 3 meals a day was pure gluttony, and the rule you eat by today is younger than the railroad. So who decided when you get hungry? The answer involves factory whistles, cornflakes, and one of the boldest marketing campaigns ever pulled off. Let's start at the very beginning. Our ancestors didn't have mealtimes. They had exactly one rule. You eat when there's food. A good hunting day, a feast around the fire for everyone. A bad day, berries, roots, or nothing at all. And their bodies handled it remarkably well. Our bodies, because that's exactly what they're built for. Storing energy, bridging the gaps, grabbing the chance when it comes. The idea of eating at 7 in the morning, because it is 7 in the morning, that wouldn't have crossed their minds. There was no 7 in the morning. Team breakfast or team breakfast skipper? Tell me below. Then humans built cities. And with cities came the first rules about eating. The Romans, for example, ate essentially one real main meal a day. The cena, in the afternoon. Anyone who feasted more often was quickly labeled a glutton. Breakfast, maybe a piece of bread, standing up. Nothing worth talking about. And it stayed that way for a surprisingly long time. In the Middle Ages, 2 meals were the standard. Breakfast was for field workers, children, and the sick, people who needed it. A respectable adult waited until midday. So let's pause on that. For thousands of years, breakfast was either unknown, frowned upon, or slightly embarrassing. What on earth happened to turn it into the most sacred meal of the day? 2 things happened, and the first one was loud, made of iron, and stood inside a factory. With industrialization, something happened. That had never happened in human history. Millions of people suddenly had to be in the exact same place, at the exact same time. And so the factory whistle became the new hunger. If your shift started at 6, you ate before it, hungry or not. Lunch break for everyone, at the same minute. Dinner when the shift ended. Eat when there's food turned into eat when the clock allows it. A historian named Abigail Carroll later dug through old cookbooks, diaries, and newspaper ads to understand exactly this shift. Her conclusion, in one line, our 3 meals aren't a law of nature. They're a product, assembled from factory schedules and train timetables. And it didn't stop at the factories. Schools adopted the same rhythm. Railroads put entire countries on standardized time. And even dinner kept drifting later into the evening, pushed by gaslight and ever longer commutes. Within 2 or 3 generations, it was settled. Hunger no longer decided when you ate. The clock had won. But the story wasn't over, because now that everyone suddenly ate in the morning, a billion-dollar question appeared: what are they eating? And right here, 2 men step onto the stage. Who still shape your breakfast today? But before those 2 step forward, you need to know what they were actually up against. Because breakfast had a problem. For centuries, it had a genuinely terrible reputation. If you ate a proper meal in the morning in medieval Europe, you weren't seen as hardworking. You were seen as weak. Eating before the work was done was a sign of excess. And back then, excess wasn't a matter of taste. It was a matter of morality. A person who couldn't control their appetite probably couldn't control anything else either. So breakfast belonged to the people you were willing to excuse. Field workers, children, the sick, travelers. Everyone else waited. And the word itself still gives it away. Breakfast, break, the fast. The name doesn't describe a meal at all. It describes the moment you stop not eating, which tells you exactly how people thought about it. The normal state in the morning was having eaten nothing. And then something arrived that nobody had planned for. Not a doctor, not a scholar, a drink. In the 17th century, coffee and tea reached Europe, along with cheap sugar from the colonies. Coffee houses opened across the cities, and suddenly there was something you could consume in the morning without being called a glutton. Coffee woke you up. Coffee didn't fill you up. Coffee was the opposite of gluttony. It was discipline in a cup. And the coffee houses weren't just places to drink. They were where merchants read the news, where deals were made, where the working day began. Morning consumption stopped looking like weakness and started looking like ambition. And through that side door, The morning meal slowly became respectable. First, a drink, then something baked alongside it, then a full ritual. And right at that moment, the factory whistle arrived and turned the ritual into an obligation. Morality had permitted breakfast. The working world made it mandatory. Millions of people now sat down every single morning because the clock told them to. But one question was still wide open, the important one. What exactly goes on that plate? There was no tradition to fall back on, no grandmother's recipe for a meal that had barely existed for centuries. Think about what that meant. An empty plate, millions of people, every single morning, in every industrial country at once. To anyone with something to sell, that wasn't an empty plate. That was the biggest open invoice in the history of food. And two men were about to send the bill. The first, John Harvey Kellogg, doctor, sanitarium director, and co-inventor of the cornflake. In 1917, his own health magazine ran an article with a sentence you've heard 100 times. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Not a research finding. A line from the house magazine of a cornflake inventor. The second man went even further. In the 1920s, an American food company wanted to sell more bacon. So they hired Edward Bernays, the man now called the father of modern PR. Bernays had a doctor write to about 5,000 colleagues with a single question. Isn't a hearty breakfast healthier than a light one? Around 4,500 wrote back, sounds reasonable. The next day, it was in newspapers across the country. And right there in the articles, almost by accident, the recommendation, ideally bacon and eggs. Sales exploded. A marketing trick became a breakfast tradition, and it's still sitting on plates around the world today. And the cornflakes, they got their own boost. The more people believed in the one correct breakfast, the fuller the bowls became. A strict health product for sanitarium guests turned into a global industry. Two men, two business ideas, one result. That sentence about the most important meal of the day still lives in guidebooks, on cereal boxes, and probably in your head. So what does that mean for you? Not that breakfast is bad. How often and when you eat is your call. And for health questions, your doctor is a better guide than an ad from 1920. But it means this. Your meal plan is not a law of nature. It's history. Your body is more flexible than your calendar claims. It still carries the calm of people who simply ate when there was food. Today, you'll probably eat 3 times. But now you know who's really sitting at the table with you. A factory whistle, a cornflake inventor, and the boldest ad man of the 20th century. Know someone who preaches every morning that breakfast is sacred. Send them this video. Stuff like this is more fun shared. Want more like this? Then stick around. And the next video gets personal. The unwritten laws of our childhood. The rules nobody ever wrote down. And every 90s kid knew by heart. You'll recognize yourself in every single one. I'm Poppy. If this helped you, drop a sub. See you in the next video.